Barton will be joining us shortly electronically. Councilman Wilden, will you lead us in our invocation today? And will you lead us in our pledge?
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this day, and we're grateful for the opportunity to meet as a council and look at these various things that are presented to us, to be able to make decisions for the welfare of our neighbor, our city, and the residents that live here and those who will live here in the future. And these things we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Would you join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm on.
We got Michael.
So, Michael
Hey,
and Audrey?
Michael and Audrey are here.
Perfect. Okay. We'll move on to public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please state your name and address for the record. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for public input? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public input. Reports from the council.
Glad the session's over.
We don't have any here.
Okay, we'll move on. Mark, administration.
Mayor and Council, we're glad that the legislative session is over. I think that's all we have for this evening.
Okay, department updates are in the packet.
There's a school board meeting on Thursday.
Oh, for elected officials.
Yeah, there is a school board for elected officials. I think Thursday, there's 2 sessions, 1 PM and 4 PM.
Correct.
For, I think, across any city official across Alpine School District. So I'm going to try to go at the 4
Yep.
PM. I don't know if anyone else.
I will plan on being there also.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just remembered that.
Okay, perfect. More meetings. Okay, we've got consent items. I'll entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
I'll move that we approve the consent items 1 through 6 as listed on the agenda, including any staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
I'll second.
second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Business items, internal accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, so this is for the IUD map amendment request for Jacobs Ranch subdivision, Plat S1. It's located just west of Ring Road, just below the corner of Mountain View Corridor and Lariat Boulevard. And it's proposed for, it's 21 lots. 4 of the lots have finished homes, 12 are under construction, 5 have not yet started construction. And at this time, if this does get approved, 4 of the 3 finished homes and then 1 after it's constructed are planned to register as IADUs at this time. And here is showing where we would update it, or where the location is, and we would update the map if it did get approved. And it met all the code regarding Title 19, and yeah, that's all that planning had.
Couple questions. Earlier on the slide, it's not planned community up in this area, right?
No.
Okay, it said planned community on the zone a couple slides back. Maybe I read it wrong. I just want,
I think that
Yeah,
Current zone.
plan community.
was previously a
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that I'd missed there.
Yeah, I believe that was a typo. I think it's R110.
No, that's fine. I did have, one question around like procedures. I remember the last time this came, we had like a subdivision, I don't remember, like 4 homes or 8 or something like that. And I thought we'd been relatively clear around, like, let's look at changing our procedures or rules so that we don't have such a small plat come to us. It was more looking at it at the neighborhood level. I remember that. I don't know.
I
Mayor.
remember that.
So I think,
I think it was just 6 lots or whatever came in, just a small piece, and it was 6 lots. One guy didn't, 5 did. We asked staff to look at it so we don't get these little pockets of duplexes into the single-family neighborhoods.
Yes, that was, we did make an amendment to that, where I believe if any lot that is less than 10, has 10 lots in the subdivision, also require from 500 feet in each direction from the subdivision, that those homes need to have permission as well. So there was some amendment to the code to that.
no, I appreciate that. I don't remember us amending it, but I think we need to look at that again because I still think this is too small because this is sitting on top of Jacobs Ranch. If they've met the requirements for what they need to do, they've met the requirements. But in the future, I still think, unless they're like isolated up by themselves, but this is going to funnel right through Ring Road and some of those other areas.
Right. The amendment that Sam mentioned, we also added criteria about how many on a particular street. So I think that's the one that you're talking about. So there, and I can pull that up because I don't know it exactly off the top of my head, but we have criteria that it can't just be, that you have to consider the whole street, not just the end of the street, or, if the plat is just the end of a street, we have criteria that you have to consider the whole street.
Well, if we could take a look at this again, because I still feel like,
Because I think little groups like this is what the intent was. Even if we changed it, we're still trying to fine tune that.
and I think it'll become an administrative nightmare for the city staff at some point if we keep getting these things all around. And like if it's a much larger segment that comes in, whatever that looks like, then it meets the requirements, fine. I mean, I'm not, they've met the requirements, they followed the current rules. I'm just talking about in the future that we probably need to look at that again. Because it's just going to be, when you have pockets all over the place, like, it's going to be impossible to, eventually at some point, impossible to figure out what's going on.
So questions, I saw you had parking, approximately 24 cars. All these homes will have the required off-street parking?
Yes.
I mean,
and-
not double in a garage where you got to knock on the neighbor's door to move their car so you can get yours out and put it back, because we've seen that in neighborhoods.
Yes. Yep. And then also, so separately, if this does get approved, then they'll need to each individually register for their IADU. And in that, they need to show their plan for their off-street parking. And then we individually go and review that. And yes, we will make sure that they will each meet the parking requirement.
Are you just wanting the requests to be larger? Is that the direction that you're suggesting? I'm looking for a direction for us to bring this back to you.
And I don't know if it's feasible, but what we talked about is larger neighborhoods.
Right.
Not like individual plats. And like, it's really easy for me to say, here's your solution up here, but without giving you,
Right.
I mean, I know the mayor is passionate about this, and I think having some more direction, maybe not right now from him, or maybe some
Maybe we
of the
can
other
catch you
council
offline,
members.
the two of us, after.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't want to legislate
No.
it's not on the agenda anyway, but like, I could say, hey, just big neighborhoods, and I think that's where we originally started, and it was too messy that way, so.
So the concern, though, is that this is too small of an area. That's what I'm,
For the future, yeah.
Because I think the concern is single-family neighborhoods are going to become a rarity. Used to be estate lots, now it's single-family, because the state's legislated IADUs, AKA duplex. Personally, I don't understand why you buy a 4,500 square foot home, rent half of it, to say you have a big home. But I I think, the 24 cars, we listen and we hear people complain about traffic. We go to our traffic studies. They say the cars make 2 trips a day, 24 cars, that's 50 more trips, plus the neighborhood, that's 100 cars. We got people screaming about traffic on the roads. I mean, this becomes a traffic concern, even if the roads are wide. So I think it's just, how do we manage it? This application, it meets requirements, it is what it is, but there's concerns with ongoing traffic and density, often by those who apply for this, like the last development, that blast us on Facebook, and they're the ones doubling the density. So the irony is not lost in that. Any of the council members online have comments?
I agree. I remember absolutely the conversation and a lot of, Audrey and I, a lot of nodding heads here. We don't have enough bandwidth for video. We apologize. But I agree that we need to make sure that we're looking at the parking, the traffic impacts as they come in individually. I think that we need to maybe look at it as a neighborhood and not just like a cul-de-sac or a couple streets. And really look at the impact, how it is going to affect the surrounding area, not just the homes involved.
Do we have rules in place for the for the duplexes or what IAD use? Do we have a city that they have to provide a parking city?
We do,
Okay.
yes.
It's covered by state law.
Okay.
Last legislative session, the legislature basically, opened the door on IAD
Right,
statewide.
right.
There's
Can we please
regulations.
have Mark turn his microphone on when he speaks?
Oh,
There's regulations such as minimum lot size. Your lot has to be over 6,000 square feet. You have to have,
A third,
we used to say you have to have an extra parking, but the state took that out, so,
because the only thing, I'm just looking at this topical area and I see cars parked. If you have cars parked on the street, is that a safety? Is that a safety concern?
it met fire marshal
Okay.
requirements in the packet.
Well, sorry, Mayor, we're going out of turn. Is that all right? I'll say for this particular application, they've met the requirements. They've gone through the process. They've done like what the code is and everything like that. And as long as the individual ones go through the application, I'm okay moving forward with this. I would just like us to reevaluate that. I just don't have a great answer, but if the mayor's willing, I'd be willing at another time to sit down, like brainstorm some ideas that are feasible.
And just a heads up to kind of give you some warning, we currently have 3 more requests that are coming in. One of them is an HOA, and they don't meet the requirements yet for that. And then we have 2 others that are under review. So we do have, and I don't know the exact amount of lots, but it's going to be similar to this, just to let you know.
So, traffic was great, talking about adding traffic. So I'm being sarcastic. Traffic wasn't good getting out here, so I don't have my laptop in front of me. But right now, it's currently 4 constructed homes. Is that with a potential of 20?
So 4 of the homes are currently built and occupied.
Oh, okay, thank you. I usually have my city stuff in front, but I'm old school today, paper.
Can only do so much with traffic. Okay, that's side conversation, we'll get to that. We do have the application that's at hand, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the requested IEDU map amendment for Jacobs Ranch Plat 5, Phase 1, located on Dunn Drive, and portions of Stetson and Roan Avenue with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
I have a first from Councilman Wadman.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman
I'll
Carn.
second.
Any further discussion? Carn,
Aye.
Barton,
Aye.
McComber,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Sierra Estates Master Development Agreement.
All right, so this is a proposal for an addendum to the Sierra Estates Master Development Agreement. The agreement is set to expire towards the end of this month on the 25th. Sierra Estates is located approximately 236 West, 400 North. You can see that here. It's just east of Neptune Park for reference. The particular piece that remains to be developed is on the right hand, on the zoning map there on the right, kind of that orange color. And so the proposed addendum would seek to amend the language in the master development agreement here, extending the agreement from 10 years to 12 years. Right now, they are actively working on plans to finish that off. One of the things at the previous city council meeting was that should this expire, it would revert to the previous zoning. And so in order to maintain the zoning as well as the other agreements of the master development agreement, it's proposed that this be extended. Our process in our code 191309 outlines that a master development agreement may be amended upon agreement of all parties. So the city council is the approving authority of a major amendment, which this would be classified as. That's essentially what they're asking for. Do you have any questions?
And the applicant is here as well.
And the applicant is here tonight, yeah.
Any questions
Mayor-
from
Well, I just
Barrett?
want to make sure I'm clear. The only thing we're doing is extending the agreement.
Correct.
Correct.
So, Mayor, if I may, I have a
Yes.
question. So they're getting to keep the zoning they got from 10 years ago. We're going to allow them to keep that. We're not going to make them follow the standards that are current today.
They're still under those, the agreement that was adopted 10 years ago, and it expires on the 25th.
If I could answer Michael's question more directly, in essence, yes, by extending the agreement, it would extend any of those entitlements that were vested at that time.
So my concern is that the whole reason why you have a decade is that was approved at the time, and things change and things evolve. I mean, we have Pioneer Crossing that's going to be coming through this. It's going to be a lot wider. Did we take into account that there might be some need for some of these lots to be part of Pioneer Crossing? I don't know. I don't have everything in front of me. But the whole point of having expirations on these, I get frustrated when we extend them and then we don't negotiate and try and get things to meet our current needs and current demand. I mean, it's been 10 years. It's a decade. I get it. It's only for a 2 more year additional, and we're making this amendment. But as a city staff, did we look into what are the current impacts that this extension is going to have, where we aren't able to renegotiate how this is going to help our city and the further the success of the city of Saratoga Springs?
We did look into that. It is adjacent to 400, is that 400 North? And that road and the extra widening in front of that property will be taken care of with this development. And that's already in the current agreement.
Now, Sarah, also to clarify, the housing that was identified here, that was senior housing, is that correct? In the
Not
develop-
all of it, so there will be a senior component, a senior living facility, but there is some housing that is not required to.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So as long as city staff reviewed it and doesn't feel like there's anything that needs to be addressed to meet our current standards or our current demands, road cross sections are different than they were a decade ago. We just want to make sure that we're not extending something that maybe wasn't ideal to what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, they had 10 years to get this developed and accomplished in some of the greatest development building era of Utah's history, and they didn't build in it. And now they're asking for 2 more years when we're in this time when it's not as efficient maybe to be building. So I'm just concerned with that. It's making sure our roads cross sections aren't too narrow here, that we're not inheriting something from 10 years ago that we would want to see adjusted.
Jeremy, are you comfortable with the engineering standards? So
400 North?
I mean, this is to Michael's question, if the council wanted to extend this and did so, but required them to comply with the current engineering standards,
Right.
that could probably resolve Michael's concern, is what I'm hearing.
Well, we didn't have any concerns in that regard when we looked at this. If we did, we would certainly have brought that up to you. I think the main question is whether or not you're fine with the zoning continuing the way that it is. So zoning would be the main thing that would be extended, so you would allow them to have the zoning they have. The other items, we don't have concerns with in terms of roads or open space, things like that.
Okay, I'm fine then.
Can you,
Sorry, I had my light blinking for quite a while. So the development agreement actually requires compliance with current city regulations when they apply for a plat, just for the record. So they're not vested under the codes and the engineering standards way back then.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that.
can you remind me, and I've forgotten, and again, I don't have my information in front of me, what's the current zoning on that?
The current zoning is R36, so it allows some attached duplexes and triplexes.
Any other questions?
And then it allows the senior living facility, which in the past has been proposed to be 9 beds. I don't know if that's still the current proposal.
And then what would it revert to if it doesn't get extended?
It would revert to, well, we would also have to do a rezone, but it would revert to R110, which would be single-family residential.
Well, I mean, I'm okay extending it for now because, you know, the facility that we were talking about, I think that's a needed thing in the city, but like, I want to make sure that they understand, at least from my standpoint, I'm the only one that's not going to keep getting extended again and again and again.
So that's a question sorry, Mayor, can
Yeah.
I? So is 2 years enough? I mean, we're asking for 2 on top.
So in the packet, there was a memorandum from the applicant, and they said they anticipate 1 year. 2, they're asking for 2 just in case there's any hiccups along the way.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. There's no other comments, and I will entertain a motion.
I think I got it in front of me, so I move that the city council approve the requested addendum for Sierra Estates amended master development agreement located on approximately 236 West, 400 North, with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wadman,
Second.
second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilman McComber,
aye.
Barton,
Aye.
Karn,
Aye.
Wadman,
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 3, Wildflower Community Plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today we have 2 items related to the same project at hand. This is Elizabeth Cole from Wadsworth Development as the applicant. She's here today. This is actually not a DAI request this time. We have a community plan major amendment that is being requested to update their grading criteria as well as their village plan phasing. This is required because this is considered a development standard. So anytime development standards change, that's a major community plan amendment. This area in pink you see on the left was previously an agricultural area indicated by the grading criteria in the current community plan. The applicant is proposing a new commercial area, and this would allow cuts and fills up to 25 feet and steep slopes up to 50%, which is in our current hillside ordinance. I'll go over that in a minute. It also amends the village phasing plan to align with the relocation of the drainage channel that I believe the applicant has been working on with engineering. So that's just reflecting that there. 1910, our hillside development ordinance was adopted just after the Wildflower Community Plan Amendment was adopted. It was under it was being written and reviewed by staff as the ordinance, and we weren't sure how long that was going to take at the time that we were reviewing the Wildflower Community Plan when we were adding the springs into Wildflower. So we had worked with the draft language and had a handful of work sessions with council to try to adopt the as much of that hillside ordinance that we knew was going to be adopted into Wildflower. The current 1910 states that limits on man-made slopes can have cuts and fills up to 25 feet, and then in B, you can have grades up to 50% without retention. There are other standards in the code that determine what happens when you do have steep slopes as well, but this is just relevant to what the request is. I also just wanted to note that outside of the hillside ordinance, the city does not have cuts and fill limits. This area in the commercial area outside of the drainage channel and the Central Utah Water Access Road does not consist of slopes over 15%. So that's just something to note. So the hillside ordinance would not technically apply to this property, but we have adopted it into the community plan as shown in your packet there. Or with the exception of the commercial area 3, that is what the applicant is requesting. And this goes along with, I also wanted to point out, since we do have a couple new council members, the previous hillside development standards did not have a standard, for instance, saying that this only applies to properties of 15% or greater slopes in the city. There was no standard for when they applied or when they didn't apply. And then a lot of the language didn't have mandatory, like, shall statements. So they were really hard to enforce. For instance, number 4 there, it says cutting and grading to create benches for pads for larger building sites shall be avoided to the maximum extent feasible. So what does that mean? It's kind of hard to enforce or quantify there. And then terracing and retaining walls, number 10, that's encouraged as much as possible, things like that. So that's where the hillside ordinance amendment came from and the grading standards at the time that they were adopted in 2020. Village Plan 5 is being requested. It looks a little bit different from when we had the work session last fall. The adopted community plan has these standards and only these standards on the screen for commercial development. There was a rezone with that community plan amendment in 2020 that changed this whole area from regional commercial to planned community. And we worked with the applicant. They didn't want to go through detailed uses and standards at that time. So the language here says that at the time of village plan, we need to identify the location and specifics of what zones apply where. And they broadly identified this area to have community commercial, regional commercial, business park, and office warehouse zoning, again, to be identified at village plan. Last year, we had some 2x2 meetings with the council. We had a work session with the council and the applicant. So here's just a little refresher. On the left is what staff had presented as what we had in mind for when the when the community plan was adopted to identify the breakdown of these zones, what we had in mind, right? Where, like, the rear part next to Central Utah Water kind of made more sense for some office warehouse because it's kind of out of visibility. Regional commercial close to the Mount Saratoga Boulevard intersection kind of made sense. There were potentially going to be some medical offices in Village 2. So maybe some business park close to that area and in the more visible area as well. And then the applicant with the first submittal had proposed the concept to the right there. They were going to do Village Plan 5 and 6 together as one large village plan, but after the work session, the applicant came back and just left Village 5 as it is. So the northernmost third of this area, and kept kind of the same layout as they proposed before, with 4 proposed what they call mid-sized commercial development. In the village plan, they have defined this as 30 to 228,000 square feet. And these buildings in this concept is shown to be between 123 to 169,000 square feet. Let's see. So the office warehouse zone, the applicant has proposed to identify all of this property in Village 5 as office warehouse, with the understanding that Village 6 would need to address regional commercial and business park. We don't have Village 6 in front of us, unfortunately, so I'm not sure what that looks like at this time. But this is about 57 acres of property. They've created 5 lots. They only have a concept with 4 buildings, though. And this would be with the proposed office warehouse zone standards as vested in 2019. So this would be similar to the standards that were used to develop the North Shore commercial area. So that's in terms of design, in terms of architectural variation, in terms of lot standards, building height, all of that would be very much like North Shore. The applicant reduced the number of exceptions that they were proposing and are only proposing these 3 here to change the definition of light manufacturing to allow custom manufacturing, to update the office warehouse flex definition, which is still currently in our code, to allow a single user building instead of being a multi-tenant building, and then to increase the height to 40, I believe it's 40 feet, which is consistent with the heavy commercial zone, which was created after the Wildflower Community Plan. And with that, the applicant is here, and she can come up here, and we'll turn this item over to the council.
Okay.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, this did come to us last year, and what we saw last year, I don't think anybody really liked, and I appreciated the opportunity to do 2-on-2s and work sessions to try and to get to where we are today. Hey, can you stop right there on that slide? Thank you. My question is, with the 5 different proposed lots within this village plan and 4 buildings, if we approve this plan, are we approving today the 4 buildings as they are, or could they come back? Could they actually come in and build 6 smaller buildings within that same envelope? Or are we approving it as I'm looking at it right now?
No, this would just be the concept plan ahead of the site plan. So this, having the conceptual site plan in a village plan, means that they could go straight to a site plan application. However, that would be an administrative approval. So any changes to the layout, we would discuss. If it was a major change, we'd bring it back to the council. But if it's a minor change, then it would be administrative. We haven't seen that before in our commercial village plans, though. So we can have that discussion.
Commissioner, or Councilmember Carn, to summarize that, the answer would be yes to both. So yes, you would be approving what you see here, and yes, they could come back with something different.
Okay, and then I had some other questions. As I went through the packet, I saw potential traffic impacts, but those looked like those traffic impacts and studies were done if both village plans were done under the old concept of whatever that was, 10 or 11 office warehouse buildings. Is that correct? Is the traffic plan based off the old study that I'm looking at on the right-hand side now?
I can answer that.
Are you following that question?
Yeah, can you press?
We're going to ask the applicant to answer that question.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilman Carn, the traffic study was done showing both phases of development, Phase 1 and Phase 2. So I believe that we put a note on the traffic report that the first phase of the traffic study was applicable to Village Plan 5.
Okay, maybe I missed that, thank you. And if this gets approved tonight, all we're approving is the one village plan. We're not making any assumptions or approvals on the other piece which has been removed, correct? I don't want to have a situation where we're, because we said we don't want to see all this office warehouse here. So I don't want to approve this and then a year and a half from now come back and say, okay, here's the next 9 buildings. We want to put those up next.
That's correct. You would have to approve a Village Plan 6 before anything could happen on the remainder of the property.
Okay. Now, my final question is, it looks like we're doing quite a bit of grade change here, bringing that up. Can you walk me through the necessity of why we have to bring the front of that property up so much higher for this project?
I'll answer that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Buildings 1 and 2, we would have a significant amount of cut for those two lots to get those to align with the road and to be able to build those pads. And then buildings 3 and 4, as well as the lot that does not have a building identified on it quite yet, would be primarily fill. And that would be for the same reason, to bring those sites up so that they can access the road. And also, what we would be doing is piping. There's an irrigation canal that runs across from east, sort of down southwest of that property. And we would be, in order to get those building pads in there, we would be piping that canal and putting in about 20 feet of fill in that area as well.
Over the canal?
Pardon me?
Over the canal?
Yes. Yeah. It would be piped and connected to the structure on the upper right.
Okay.
So the upper buildings to the northwest, they're going to be slightly taller than the ones that are actually fronting Mountain View and 73. Is that correct? Or there will be a higher elevation?
I can't tell you exactly. I don't have my engineering plans, so I can't tell you exactly the grade elevation of those building pads. But generally, we are sloping down from the top of Marigold down into the area where the reservoir is, and then the grade goes back up on the road as you move to the southwest. So you would see some change in elevation as you viewed the site from a distance, but all the buildings would be the same height. And Jeremy, I don't know if you have anything you want.
I was looking at this earlier
Add to.
today. The two back buildings look like they're maybe 10 or 20 feet higher in elevation. The other buildings look like the maximum lift is somewhere around 25 feet in the front. So like closest to Mountain View Corridor as it comes to the south, it looks like it's about a 25-foot lift at the front to level that out. And then the road in between the buildings, there's a great elevation increase that goes up to the back buildings being, I thought it was like a 20-foot elevation, 10 to 20-foot elevation difference to those back buildings. Does that sound about right? I'm not an engineer either. That's what it looked like to me.
I think that's very close, Mark, but I don't have.
Okay, so they step down basically as you go east. They're stepping down. Now, Village Plan 6 to the west of all this, and I haven't been over to the site for probably 6 or 8 months. I'm just trying to remember, is that elevation higher than this, or is it about the same? So as you go west on 73, what does that elevation do over there? Do we have visibility to that? I'm just wondering if the stuff to the west, so I'm trying to vision what gets built there one day, and I don't want to box this into 2 years from now, 3 years from now, having a conversation where we're told, well, the only thing that will go there is Office Warehouse because Office Warehouse is now blocking everything that's to the east of it. And there'll be no views or sight lines, looking east towards the lake and the mountains. I'm concerned about those elevations and what could be built on Village Plan 6 and not be boxed in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're not anticipating blocking views because our goal is to get retail pads on the southwest side as we meet as the road curves south and as we meet Mount Saratoga Road, so that those would have maximum visibility at that point. We did some elevation and rendering concepts when we had the work session. So as I'm
Yep.
looking back at those elevations, there was a view from Marigold Drive looking north, and the road is lower at that point than the buildings, but there's a large landscape buffer and parking lot buffer. So I know it's not feasible for me to get these up on the screen, but we did those studies of sightlines and renderings at that point. And I don't think there are any.
Wasn't that study though? That study was all with the assumption of 7 more office warehouse structures going on that Village Plan 6.
Yeah, but our renderings were also studying buildings 1 through 4 as well.
Okay, fair. Yep. The 1 through 4 really are no different from the last plan we saw. We've just eliminated Village Plan 6
That's right.
and changed your grading.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't think I have any more questions, Mayor.
Okay. Jeremy, really quick, the canal, I know in one other area we were worried about 20 feet of fill put over an existing pipe. Concerns, issues?
I can't speak for the canal company, what their concerns will be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a concern.
The pipe is not existing, Mayor Miller. We would be piping it.
Yeah, I know.
The point.
Just in another project, we were concerned about 20 feet of fill over a pipe. Even new, if it breaks, that's still 20 feet.
I'm not sure that the canal company would allow you.
They may not allow it, so it's speculative. It's a proposed grading plan. If they've not applied or if the canal company doesn't allow it, then they'll have to, I guess, work with the canal company.
Okay.
So
We have had preliminary discussions with them, and
Is this-
there weren't any concern raised at that point.
This
It
is
was
the Welby or the ULDC?
I'm sorry?
Which canal company is this?
It's the Jacob Welby.
The Welby Jacob.
Okay. Councilman Wilden?
A few things, and Sarah, if you could bring up our packet in Dropbox, it's like 122 pages, then I can refer to specific pages that we can all look at. I have some pretty significant concerns that I think we need to talk to. One of the things Councilman Karn referenced was, hey, I don't want to come back and be approving 6 more later on, but if you go to that in our packet, page 98,
It'll take me just a second.
no, that's just fine. Page 98, it's definitely within your plan because it says you're planning on 1.3 million square foot of office warehouse, right? I mean, so Councilman Karn, they're coming back. They're planning on 1.3 million square foot in office warehouse. And my concern here is when we originally approved this community plan, we talked about in here, hey, there needs to be a variety of neighborhood commercial, community commercial, regional commercial, business park, and office warehouse. And we're being asked to make a pretty significant change. If all it's going to be is office warehouse here, we don't know what's going else otherwise, but we're pretty darn sure that we're going to have another, what's 1.3 minus 6, 9?
1.3 minus.
7, there we go. I can do math, I'm a CPA. But another 700,000 square foot that you guys are planning coming in, and I can't look at this community overall and say you're going to provide a variety. And then on top of that, if you go to, well, I'll let Sarah catch up.
Sure, are you wanting to have that?
It's like PDF page.
Councilman
117,
Wilden, can I respond to that?
Well, let's pull up the page for
Okay.
Which page do you want?
98.
98 of the packet, or the item, or
The item.
Of the item.
I don't know, this is what I'm getting when I put 98.
A5-07 is the
Oh,
page
okay.
before it.
Okay, here it is.
sorry. But like right there, 1.3 million. So we know what you'll be coming back in and asking for, which is what we originally said we're not comfortable with.
Right, right. I'd love a chance to talk about this particular study. This study was done over a year and a half ago with the original, when we originally applied for the village plan, which I think was February of 2023. That's when this study was done. We left it in this report, but we regrouped, and I think we came a long way since that point. So this is really quite outdated, and that is not the intention. And we talked back and forth with our partnership about leaving in this old labor and wage study or taking it out. And, you know, with full disclosure, we left it in because we think that the employment and wage study still is valid. But we are at this point only asking for the 5 lots of office warehouse with the understanding that we need to regroup, see where the market goes, and it is no longer our plan. We understand that we have to represent business park, community commercial, and regional commercial in Village Plan 6. So the only place that the 1.3 million square foot of office warehouse is referenced is in this outside study, which is out of date.
Well,
It's not in our plans.
and I guess that goes back to the other things is I can't approve this when you're supposed to provide a variety and you're saying that's not the intent. So we don't know what the intent is. And the only thing that's shown to us is 1.3 million of office warehouse. Whether it's there, if it wasn't there, I would still have the concern of, well, I don't know what you're going to do there because all we're proving is office warehouse. And then we're talking about jobs, and, you know, we've had a number of presentations over the years that these bring great jobs. If you go to page 96 to 97,
96.
Is that this one?
I mean, these, you know, we're talking about, oh, we'll have 23 people making 36,000 to 47,000. We can create those jobs at Chick-fil-A. But so, I mean, like, I don't think when we're talking about this, the very high end is like
6 software engineers.
software engineers, that they're probably estimated, you know, that's kind of the lower end of what I would anticipate for a software engineer. We can't point to, this is really going to create a lot of jobs that are high paying, like someone like a warehouse or a general. So let's take someone in the middle. Software engineers, you know, the range 83 to 91,000 with our housing market, how are they going to afford any house in Saratoga Springs? So it's not creating jobs for people in Saratoga Springs based upon the study. I mean, the other issue I have is on page 100, talking about transportation, and I know it's tied to the other thing, 225 deliveries a day. So that's what, 450? Yeah, I can add 450 semis, trips, if you count that in and out, a day right around this that's being built right by a residential existing
Per 70,000 square feet.
per 70,000 square feet.
So 140,000 square feet would be 500.
So this is exactly why we're not comfortable with what we talked about before, because this points to, hey, we potentially have distribution centers here. So everything I'm bringing up, nothing's new. I have reiterated this probably a dozen times now. It's, we don't want distributions. That's what the study says. We said we understand you're vested in large buildings, but you're not vested in how much we have to give you, because we're not seeing, we don't have any plans on neighborhood commercial, community commercial, regional commercial, business park. All we're seeing is 600,000 square foot, which it's, take that divided by 70, 60 divided by 7, what is that, like? I don't know, like, I can't do math, I'm getting math fright, you know, having other people like evaluate my quality here. 1,000 deliveries a day, that's a distribution center.
I think
8.57.
maybe the statistics here need to be looked at a little bit differently. For each tenant of approximately 70,000 square feet, there are about 5 deliveries a day. So these are total numbers, and it is also based on the entire build-out, Phase 1, Phase 2, when it was all office warehouse, and not what it is today, which is just Phase 1 and 4 buildings.
Okay, I mean, I understand that, but I have to go off like what was presented to us. And then how tall are these buildings? Can they be 40 feet?
40 feet, yeah.
So we're talking about raising a building 65 feet, the top of the building for where it is right now. From my house, I almost can see the Y over in Provo. They won't even have to climb to the Y to see these buildings. And that's what it's gonna do to our city, is we're raising up these things so high, we might as well say, welcome to Warehouse Central. And we're putting them right along residential neighbors, existing homes. And I have for 10 years made sure we protect the people that are already living here. And we've given this feedback, this stuff needs to be pushed away from the homes. It should not be the centerpiece of our city. And that's what's being brought to us. And we've given this feedback again and again and again, and it's not listened. And here in our staff, it's like, well, this is what we thought we worked out with. You came back with the same plan, just half of it, still in the packet, we're gonna do half later. So I am, at this point, 100% no, because we don't know what we're gonna do with the rest of the product. We have no assurance, and then the rest of the development, no assurance that any of those other properties are gonna be, or those zone types is what I meant to say, are gonna be built out. This is a legislative decision, and it's gonna impact the welfare of this city. The traffic, the roads, the residents, everything. It's not the right spot to put I'm gonna call it a 65-foot, because I know it's 40-foot, but we're putting a 65-foot home, business towering over existing homes. If I voted for this, I should be kicked out of office. I'm done.
Okay.
Councilman Wadman? Okay. Any comments online?
So I just wanted to thank Council Member Wilden's comments. I had similar concerns. I support everything he said. I don't need to repeat any of that. For me personally, I feel like we have made an effort to communicate. We've shared our concerns. We've shared our feelings. And I feel like it's gone on deaf ears. And if anything, we're being asked to do something from a legislative decision that then turns into an administrative decision, and then it becomes our hands are tied. And then my other real concern is I heard a couple of things from the applicant, and I apologize that you were, maybe the staff that were supporting you didn't remove things or double check their numbers, but you're asking us today to approve something that was presented to us. I have to make this decision based on what's presented. If something should have been removed or should have been adjusted or changed and wasn't, that's not our staff's responsibility, and that's not ours as a council's responsibility. I'm making my decision based on what was presented to me, and I 100% also agree that I will not be able to approve something like this. In my 15 years, I've never seen something so against from a vision of what we see in an area than this project. I think the only other thing that comes close is probably the prison that was looking to be relocated here. And I almost think this is just as bad.
Hey, Mayor, just a couple things for me as well. Although not that much, because I agree. I need my name's not online. Anyway, this is Councilwoman Barton. Anyway, I agree with everything that's been said. I don't think I've been comfortable with the zoning from the beginning when it came to Planning Commission, and I can't even imagine putting that size of building right there ever. I can't, and in good faith, again, I can't, if what we're seeing on the documents is incorrect, there's no way that we could approve that. And so those are just my feelings. I'll turn the time over to somebody else.
Councilman Wadman?
So the question, just so my understanding, if you're heading north on Redwood Road and I know it's out of our city, it's by Camp Williams, those buildings that are off, is that 65, does anybody know how high those are? I'm talking about as the warehouses.
Lehigh?
Yeah, they're in Lehigh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that would be similar to what we're looking at, right?
It wouldn't be quite that high though, because I think that retaining wall alone is something we would never approve. I think it's like 40 or 50 feet.
But it'd be something similar, right? Just to give me an idea.
25 feet, so about half.
Okay.
How tall?
The size of the buildings are similar, Lance.
Yeah.
In the lifting from the grade.
I just heard Michael ask the question, how tall is the building, do we think? What's the height of the buildings, say, out on 20?
40 feet.
40 feet. So
So
roughly
65 feet.
Stevens Point.
65 feet towering over existing homes. And I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to the product, but it needs to be like pushed away from the homes, not like highlighted as the new centerpiece of our city. And I know that's not your intent, but putting it right on like, what is it, Crossroads and what's the other street?
Mountain View?
Mountain View, 65 feet in the air, that's what it's going to be.
Well, and on top of that, Stephen, too, you're looking at it's because of the size of the buildings. That's why they're grading, because they can't fit a big building on a sloping land. So if they did smaller, buildings that weren't as large, they wouldn't have to have nearly the grade changes of 25 feet, et cetera. So there's some other things that, I've gone up to that property many times as well. So it's the type of product they're trying to put on there is requiring the size of the projects is why they're getting such big grading.
Even 40 feet, sorry. Even 40 feet is kind of big. You times that by 1.5, get to 60, 65 feet, that's significant for me, so.
May I say that, so I think what is not being clearly articulated is that the road from the north to the south drops down and the building pad elevations are below the level of Chianti Drive. It's at least 10 feet. So visually, these buildings would be at least 10 feet lower than what you're seeing on Chianti and above Chianti. So only from the south would we be building things up so that the road is below. And that would be, SR 73 is slightly below where our building pad elevations are. And that's heavy highway. Can you show me where the closest homes do you have? Thing in the village plan that we could look at?
I think it's Mount Saratoga across 73.
Yeah, they're cutting it down here.
I've pulled up the proposed grading just for that discussion. And Elizabeth, that is the concern. The concern isn't the visibility from Chianti. The concern is the visibility from the rest of the.
From the south.
Right. And as far as the homes,
It's not like 20 feet away, but there's,
well, there's homes all over. There's homes right across Mountain View Corridor.
Right.
There's homes to the south and there's existing neighborhoods. There's 3 or 4 existing neighborhoods to the south, and then to the north is the Wildflower development.
and it's just, it's the building type, you're putting that right up against homes, it's a solid building. I know we have 3D architecture, but it's still a solid building we're throwing up right in the middle of our city that everyone's gonna look at.
So on your page 116, 117, you've got 2 different elevation cuts. One shows you drop down and cut the property off of Marigold Drive. The other one shows us similar to Marigold Drive, but when I go over to the elevation, one of them's at 4,820 feet and the other's at 4,720. Is there a 100 feet slope the other direction? If I look between your 2 cut plans?
No, it's not 100 feet. There is 100 feet overall slope from east to west, roughly.
720.
And it kind of forms a dip at the middle of the project. There is that. But the road is aligned to that, and the building pads are aligned to that slope. This is geographically a very, and topographically, a very challenging site.
Yeah, I understand, I've been up over there.
Yeah.
Well, and then maybe this isn't the right product for this site. I don't want to force something into a site because it's what you want. It needs to be able to fit within our code and fit within our standards. And sometimes the site just doesn't allow things that you want, and you have to readdress that. I mean, we've had over the 15 years, I've had many developers want something and they realize it's just not going to work, and then they make adjustments and they have huge success and great benefit and value from it. So maybe that's something that as an organization you need to rethink through, because I'm telling you right now, I mean, from what I'm hearing, you're not getting the votes. I've heard 3 pretty adamant votes. I'm not sure on 2, but you can look at this and say, we can keep trying and see what happens. You just got 2 new council members. One of them, I said that she wasn't for it. I didn't hear quite Lance's thoughts on it, exactly where he stands, but like, rethink it. Maybe this isn't the right approach for this land because of the slopes and all of the different impacts that you have with the road and everything. You can make it work something else. So that's just some advice and some thoughts, but I don't want to see this again. It comes to me again with exact same thing and you're just trying to push it through again, then you're going to hear me get more upset.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add before I entertain a motion?
Okay. I would like to say that we've worked, all of us have worked many long hours with the council and the staff, and we are asking for very, very few exceptions on this plan. It is within code. We've taken every step that we could to meet the ordinance where it is today and where we were established in 2019. So these are not departures from the code and from the ordinance. These are trying to make sense in today's economic environment for a development that has a mutual benefit. We went in with every intention to work on phase 1, meeting all of the concerns that we heard from the council and from the city staff. We provided renderings. We had a work session, which we came out of with a very positive way to move forward. We thought we had done that. It's distressing to hear that we have not achieved that goal, which we set out to do, to make a mutually beneficial development. And I think some things which would be helpful here, and I would just ask your thoughts on continuing this and providing additional information, renderings, elevations. There is a lot that we can do to better illustrate what we are planning and the views from the road, from the neighborhoods, what would be seen. And we would very much like the opportunity to be able to do that.
So Mayor, if I may, real quick,
Yes.
apologize, it's hard with the delays and stuff on the electronic. I would strongly encourage you not to waste your money and time on that, because I'm telling you right now, from a legislative perspective, I do not believe this furthers the benefit of the city of Saratoga Springs. It is not conducive with our long-term plan. We were very clear on our land use map and our desires and zoning, what we wanted to see here. We've expressed that time and time again, and we're seeing a unilateral project of just warehouses. So if you want to, I can't stop you. It is America if you want to invest that money. But I'm telling you right now, even all the renderings of the world, a 65-foot up in the, and you can do those renderings. I mean, you can take your angle and you can make it look the way you want to look. And I've had other developers do this. And then when it actually goes into reality, it doesn't look anything like those renderings because it didn't meet the goals of what you're trying to accomplish. So you can do what you want, but me personally, that I don't think it's worth your time and money, because right now I don't see this as the right location for these huge big boxes. And what you're seeing in plot 6, I mean, you put into this packet 1 point whatever million square feet, and you're saying that's not our intent. But if we approve this today, you're getting the rights to 1.2 million. And I just feel like, and then my last comment I want to make is you did say something that concerns me. I'm very clear with staff. Staff has been very good about this over all the years working with me and working with our developers. They don't give their opinion. They helped you through this process. They helped you be able to present something, but it's your project and your plan, and the staff didn't, I hope they didn't say, this is what we like, or this is what we would want. They're supposed to help you through the process, and they're not supposed to really give their opinion. And from what I understand, they didn't, and they're helping you doing what they do best, is helping you through the process of working with the city. You did meet with us, and we were very clear on what we wanted and what we were trying to help you understand what we'd like to see in this area, a multifunctional use that will benefit the future vision of Saratoga Springs. But again, I'm just one of five, but that's my concern.
Right. Well, I'll clarify that the staff did not give their opinion except for in the areas where we were within ordinance and outside of ordinances and asking for exceptions. They didn't give their opinions outside of what would be their role. So just to clarify that, they did a fantastic job in being collaborative with us.
And I want to jump in and just add that anything that we said would meet code, that's assuming that the legislative decision is made, right? So right now, we're talking about, does it meet code, does it not meet code? At this point in time, there's no code because there hasn't been a legislative decision. So I just want to add that clarification, that unless a legislative decision is made, there's no code in place. So I just want to add that clarification.
Well, sorry,
No,
Mayor.
go for it.
I will say, we have been in 2x2 meetings with you, and my feedback's been, and I know the other people that's been with me, I don't remember who, I wasn't in the other meetings because they're 2x2s, but mine's been pretty consistent, is you might be able to do, yes, these larger buildings, but if you break them up and stuff like that, I personally would be more amenable. But you've chose not to break them up. You have these really large buildings, and like to Councilman McComber's point, this is what we get when you're going to try to force these onto these property.
Okay, I think we're kind of going circles. We got an item on the business calendar. Elizabeth has asked maybe if we can continue it at their request. I will entertain a motion from the council. So we do have staff findings. We do have the applicant's request.
I'm not interested in continuing. I think you can come back and present something else, but just having the same thing on here the way it is, I feel like I need to be clear, but I'm one of five.
Okay. I will open it up for a motion.
I'll move that we deny the proposed amendments to the community plan and village plan as presented, with the findings that the community plan requires neighborhood commercial, community commercial, regional commercial, business park, and office warehouse, and only at this point is office warehouse being proposed, and we have insufficient evidence of the other property types within the community plan, and the applicant has not demonstrated because of this compliance with the community plan for the lack of these things, and approval of the community plan and village plan is a legislative decision, and approval of this would not promote the general welfare of the city.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wilden.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion from the council? Council,
I only have one question, please, if I could.
Yes.
I think the statement was made that if we approve this, we're approving $1.3 million or square feet of office warehouse. Is that the case?
is that where we're,
It appears that in this application, it was something closer to 600,000 square feet in this particular phase. So I think the 1.3 million was referencing the whole site when it was being proposed as the whole site. But to Michael's point, I think it's closer to around 600,000 square feet.
But it wasn't removed. It was still
Okay.
left in.
okay.
But we're not, it wouldn't be entitling the entire thing to 1 point. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Okay. Council Attorney, Terminator.
So as in reviewing the community plan, I noticed on page 5-29, I think this is important. If I would propose adding to your motion that the community plan on page 5-29 allows the council to determine location restrictions during the village plan review.
And I will add that finding that was just stated on record by the city attorney with an amendment.
And I'll second the amendment.
Okay, I've amended first and second. Any further discussion? Councilman Wadman?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Karn?
I,
Motion passes unanimously. Do we have need for closed session tonight? Okay, then I will adjourn the meeting.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.